And now there's also simply the process of the reconnection, which is, shall we say, designed to advance us on our life course. Some people say it throws you on your life path faster than you might even be ready for. And there's a degree of healing that comes with that. So that it's almost like there's an overlap, like a Venn diagram. Is it this big? Is it this big? Or do they completely become one another eventually? I'm not really certain. The researchers who've looked at reconnective healing say that this is a level of healing that is probably here on the planet for the very first time. What they said was, it's new. I said, what do you mean it's new? How can you say it's new? And they said, well, you have to understand it's old because it's of the universe, and therefore it's timeless, and yet it's new here on the planet. And I said, that's even stranger. How do you explain that? It's really kind of basically simple, they went on. We were all raised being told that we're three-dimensional beings, height, width, and depth.
Yeah.
Einstein had been telling us from the early part of the last century that we're four-dimensional, and science finally accepted it in the year 2000, the fourth dimension being time. It was a little tricky for people to grasp at first because it didn't look like the other dimensions in our minds. We could see height, we could see width, we could see depth, we didn't know how to see time. So it took science a long time to work it out and figure it out and determine exactly how that functioned. They didn't really want to accept it right away. It's sort of like, running into a convention of scientists and artists maybe, 200 years ago, screaming, guess what, I found two nifty new colors. I think I'll call one ultraviolet and the other one infrared. And everyone would say, well, that's ridiculous, because if it's a color, you should be able to see it. So we weren't able to see that. So here we are in our little four-dimensional playground, let's say, in this huge multi-dimensional universe. And our playground, bounded by, let's say, height, width, depth, and time. I tend to draw it like a square. Actually, a lot of researchers now are considering it like a bubble.
Okay.
Okay, 3D, four-dimensional bubble. It has a certain capacity. And we've been able to accept certain amounts of energy healing to fill our little playground or our bubble. Reiki, Jurei, Jinshin, Qigong, Mahjong, Beijing, EFG, XYZ, 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to call these healing techniques.
Yep.
Right? And Reiki feels different than Qigong, than Jinshin, because there are different subsets of energy healing. But time is moving faster. We hear this discussed all the time, and yet if you really sit down and speak with the people studying and researching this change, this speeding up of time, it's speeding up, but in all directions at once. It's not just going faster, beginning, middle, end. Time went by so quickly I couldn't get anything done. We're actually getting more done. Time is actually expanding. So, therefore, is our playground, opening up and expanding. And now we're able to receive the rest of the energy, not just those subsets. And we find the healing spectrum that is now here that we're able to access, the reconnective healing spectrum, has all of energy healing as yet just a subset, because it goes from energy into light into information. And this information is part of what's been making itself clear, knocking on the door to explain itself to me from all different directions, including from, as you know from reading the book, from another dimension.
Okay, that's probably a good place to take a break, speaking of time, and we'll come back for another part of the program. See you soon. Welcome back, and we're having a really interesting conversation with Dr. Eric Pearl. Before the break, we're talking about the playground.
Mm-hmm.
Part of your journey in the book was talking about when you became very ill, before you were led into or experienced the reconnection when you had pneumonia. One of the things that seems to be a commonality for a lot of people that are doing this work in the world is there's sometimes a major illness, even a near-death experience, and that somehow moves them into another pathway that takes them to another level of understanding of energy, who we are, healing, etc. Could you share a little bit about that journey for you? Because you saw beings, didn't you?
Yeah, you know what though? I didn't connect it that way. I do now that I hear it, now that I hear you say that.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know that I had fully connected it
That's
that
how
way
you wrote it.
in my head.
Okay.
Well, here's how I wrote the book. Okay, just
I'll
to
misinterpret it.
understand this. No. But I mean, let's just for clarity.
Yep.
Hay House, the publishers, came to me and said, "We heard a tape of you. Someone had made a tape of me talking. We'd like you to do a book. Here's a check, and here's how you should do the book. We want 1/3 your history and life leading up to this, 1/3 to be theory, concept, research, and the last third to be a how-to portion." So I did it. The part that I least wanted to write was the first portion, which was my history, because the reconnection is not about me. It's not about me. It's I guess you could say, as an analogy, I'm a door. I'm a door, let's say, and somehow or other, the door opens up, and in comes Oprah Winfrey or somebody. No one is running over to go, "Oh my God, what a wonderful door," right? The gift is what comes through. So I had to take the first third and write about the door. And there was a time approximately 10 years before the healing started, which is maybe part of why I'm not, no, I really do equate it, because you're right. There are a number of things that happened in that 10-year period where I had pneumonia, and I had a fever of really high. I mean, it's something that, only an infant might live past. It was something like 106 or 107. It was high. I kept trying to break the fever. I figured I'll just drink lots of fluids, I'll stay under covers. I felt so bad my neighbors would bring me food because I couldn't get out to get any. And the fever just didn't seem to break. But I was going to just keep doing it because I knew eventually fever had to break. And then I wake up one morning, and I look at the foot of my bed. I don't remember which happened first, if I took the breath or I looked at the foot of the bed, but I took a breath and I heard in my lungs. And for some reason, I saw a group of people standing at the foot of my bed. Some of them were short, some of them were tall. No, they didn't look like, big-headed aliens, but they did appear to be from different places other than Earth. I saw them. It was just for a second. And I said to myself, the moment I saw them, I went, "You're dying." I got up with all the energy I could to go to my doctor. I got in a cab. It was so hot. It was a hot August day, again in Southern California. I called, and I had such a fever, I called the cab, and I said, "You've got to have air conditioning." I said, "If a cab pulls up and the windows are down, I'm not getting in." Well, the cab pulled up and the windows were down, and I had to get in. I went to the doctor. He said, "You have to go immediately to the hospital." I said, "Well, I'm going to go home and get pajamas and toothpaste." And he said, "No, you have to go straight to the hospital." I went home. I got my pajamas and toothpaste.
Are you stubborn?
I went, "No," and I resent that.
Strong-willed.
Scorpio, Leo, Virgo, it's like a weird combination.